Picking up where we left off in the last video, we're going to continue to put dimensions in. We're going to put the linear dimensions in for this area right here. So we go to the Annotate tab, click here for the linear or straight line dimension. Linear dimensions either are horizontal or vertical. Okay, that's the way the extension lines will run. If you need the extension lines to run on an angle, you need to pick the aligned option. And I drag this down. My problem is I want to put the next dimension in here. My value, my dimension itself is here in the way. So if I click on it once, it highlights all the grips. I can left click and hold on that blue grip for the number 1 and drag it to this side, left click again, and relocate it. If I had picked this point first and this point second, it would have automatically put the number 1 out here. Okay, continuing my dimensions, clicking here and here, I can use the object snap and pick the end of that extension arrow and make sure that these align. You want to make sure that all of your dimensions are aligned. Make them look neat. Do the same thing for this one over here. Now, have another dimension for depth here and here, and you see it comes up 0.76. Now, notice that the extension lines here and here, the extension lines cross. You can let extension lines cross, but I can't run lines through an actual dimension value. I cannot cross dimension lines which have the arrowheads. I can't cross those with anything. Okay, so you got to be careful when you're doing that. Now, I've got another dimension I want to put in there to show depth, and that would be this dimension here and here. Now, you want to avoid putting dimensions on the drawing if you absolutely have to, or unless you absolutely have to. In this case, this isn't a bad idea simply because it's a single dimension. The only other option would have been to have drug this dimension way out here somewhere, and it makes it harder to read. But the more dimensions you put on top of the drawing, the harder it is to read it. So I typically try not to put any at all, but if I do, I limit it to 1, maybe 2 at the most. Okay. Now, I'm going to move over into this view because I've got some angles to put in. Okay, I'm going to go to the angular dimension, and I'm going to put in the angle from here to here, drag it out here so that I'm actually away from the part. I'll put that angle in. Okay, I'll put this angle in. Now, in this particular case, I do have the arrowhead, the leader, inside of the drawing. Okay, we can live with that. Okay. Now, I've got one more angle that I've got to put in, and that's the one off of the front here. Now, with this one, I'm going to leave it right about there. Yeah, I know the arrowhead's inside the drawing, but that's not that big of a deal. We're okay with that. Okay. While I'm over here in the right-hand side view, I'm going to go back to my linear dimension. Notice I'm picking these extreme endpoints so that I end up with a gap from my extension line. You're supposed to have a gap between your extension line and what you're extending from. That way you don't mistake the extension line for an actual line that's part of the part. I also need to dimension the location of the hole in terms of the dimension from the back of the part and also the dimension from the bottom. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, drag it over there and there. Okay, now I'm going to leave it there. I've got a problem. I can't have all of this stuff sitting in here in the way. Okay, no overlaps or anything else. It makes it very difficult to read. So I'm going to come back in here on my 2.00 dimension, left click to bring the grips up. Now I'm going to left click on the grip that's with the dimension and hold it and drag it this way. Left click again, and now you see that I have been able to bring this particular dimension out and away from the part. I'm going to do a zoom to extents. I'm going to end this video here, and we'll pick up where we left off with the next one.